Enter madman, stage left. The audience rises and holds their breath. They let the vampires into their house, pretend they don't see when the teeth come out. Put a band-aid on their throat. No one wants to rock the boat, and no one wants to talk about it. You're not supposed to talk about it. The curtain rises and the players come out. Webs of lies spinning from their mouths. Stop looking, listen for a little while. Attention to the men behind the curtain. Just look away when you see the blood spurting down to a steady drip. I promise to leave you a little bit. I'll be back for another drink tomorrow. I love the taste of your terror and your sorrow bathing in your blood. It's never enough.
All right, if I can kill this here, kill the media. Hello and welcome to the Iron Mountain Hour. Yeah, that's a good point, Dustin. You're always good for that kind of stuff. Hello and welcome to the Iron Mountain Hour. My name is Cliff. I'm joined by Tim and Dustin as we go down the table. It is Sunday, September the 11th, 2022. We're coming to you live from the Iron Mountain here in Carter County, Tennessee. So glad to have you with us, and shout out in the chat. Let us know where you're from, where you're watching tonight, what you're doing. What do you think about these stories? That's right. Let us know about this kind of stuff. We always are interested to find out. So I'm sure you saw the title of the episode, and we're like, what the hell? How are they going to tie these two things together? And it's not really so much to plan, but
we work in mysterious ways. So.
That's right. You never know where Tim might take us, so he might find a way to get us there.
To take you outside where I have a Bigfoot tied up. That's where it's going.
Mm-hmm. I guess that Bigfoot did not hide well enough.
Goth, at some point I'd like you to discuss, and for the point of this is because I saw a video discussing most ridiculous theories, and one of them was interdimensional Bigfoot, and you seemed like you liked that one, so I would like you to argue for it.
Yeah, let's look at interdimensional Bigfoot tonight. If you guys know any particular Bigfoot stories, we'd like to hear those. We definitely want to hear them in the chat and tell us something about it. If you've got something really long you want to write, you can email me at theironmountainhour@gmail.com. I'll check that a couple times throughout the show. Well, if you got a big long story you want to send us, you can send it that way.
Or send us a book in the chat.
Yeah, you can.
Is there a limit in the chat?
I don't know if there is or not, but it's kind of hard to read it in the chat. So if it's really, really long, send us an email. I'll read it over. But so you've probably seen a lot of Bigfoot stuff over the years, so this is probably not going to be any kind of, amazing groundbreaking info or anything like that, so don't want to get the wrong idea. We're just talking about Bigfoot here, and we're talking about 9/11. We're talking about some other stuff too. We talked about local stuff from our area of the Tri-Cities here around Carter County, and I have on a couple of episodes we talked about Mountain Dew, how it was born in Johnson City. It really was. It was first produced in Knoxville in 1946, but when the flavor went to the Tri-Cities Beverage Company, which is behind our local drink Dr. Enough, they got the first Mountain Dew franchise in 1954. So that was the first place that it was actually mass produced and sold all over Tennessee. And then I think it was 1960. Let me check WJHL's article here. Here's one of their original bottles. Yeah, 1960. Tri-City Beverage began placing Tri-City Lemonade, a citrus-flavored soda, into Mountain Dew bottles, the release states. The new flavor as today was the beginning of a soda now distributed across the nation and the world. So we're here from the birthplace of Mountain Dew, and we're going to try out, as we have done a couple times before, we tried out the hard Mountain Dew and decided, hey, Mountain Dew, if you will put some sugar in this stuff instead of artificial sweetener.
Or at least something like stevia or monk fruit extract, something that doesn't taste like ass.
Yeah, I don't know what it was for sure, but my guess would be aspartame. That's what it tasted like.
Or
yeah.
the aspartame potassium, or however you say that one. I've never actually heard that.
Yeah, isn't it that sucralose? Is that asulfate potassium, or is that something different?
Thing. Sucralose is a totally different.
Okay. Well, I don't know if sucralose is good for you or not, but it kind of. I don't really think that sucralose is very good. Stevia, and there's a couple like there's what's kind of orange. What the heck is it? I forget. It's almost like an orange zest that it has a sweetness to it that's natural. I can't think of what it's called.
I'm not sure. I know monk fruit extract is good, and it's actually like how the extract is. It's a weird antibacterial property, but it's sweet and has no calories, and it's.
What about like regular corn syrup, not high fructose? Do you know anything about that? I mean.
Still not great for you.
I'm sure. Sure, it's not great, but it seems like I'd rather have like a regular corn syrup or a regular sucrose or glucose sugar than.
Have you tried rock sugar?
I don't think so.
I used to buy it at it's like what I guess like the super gentrified version of like hippie tea stuff.
Yeah.
It's like in like the Asheville Mall. I can't remember the name of it now. It's a big upscale tea shop. If you go in there, they've got a big glass jar, and it's like rock sugar. And I think what they do is they get the sugar out of like beets, and then they compress it into like stones.
Beet sugars.
Yeah, and then you melt it, and you melt it into your teas and stuff like that. And it
No, I don't think I've ever had that.
well, it's good. It's I don't know if there's like something bad with beet sugars or anything like that, but I liked it when I got on like a big yerba mate kick and passion flower tea kick and stuff. And
What exactly is yerba mate?
I'm not really sure. It's got an upper effect to it though.
Oh.
It's a cleaner
I
feeling.
mean, is it like a tea or is it a?
It's brewed kind of like a
brew
tea.
it?
I think it's like a plant, so it works the same tea
Basically,
more
they make it
popular.
like a tea.
That's what I think, if I'm not mistaken, that's what they drink in like Brazil and places like that instead of coffee. I like it. That we don't have a good we don't have any like good pre-made versions around here, even in cans and stuff. They only have like mint and crap to it, so it really usually pollutes the flavor out of it. So if you want to make it, just go to the health food store, go to the back and get the packets of the yerba tea and make it yourself. Otherwise, it's not going to be very good.
Well, speaking of tea, the Queen died. What, Friday? Was that when it was, or Thursday? I think it was Thursday. Queen of England died, Elizabeth II. So I'm sure there's lots of different theories going around about that.
Is that why the flag is lowered?
Probably, yeah. I think that is. My son told me that Biden was going to be lowering it for that. Let me show you something real quick.
Why are you bowing to the crown we never have before?
That is a weird location.
So-
Did they ever lower it for any other world leaders? You know?
Oh, I don't know about that.
That's
I
my
think they
question.
lower it a
I always
lot. It seems like it shouldn't be lowered for.
I always try to look at it instead of picking the side of it. I try to just figure out maybe try to figure out what the other question or the other angle of it is.
Right.
My other angle of that is, have we ever lowered it for any other world leaders? That would be my question.
Look at this. What if they uploaded her consciousness? They messed up and didn't put it into her hot young robot body. Accidentally put her into the
in the
McDonald's
kiosk at the
kiosk,
McDonald's.
so she gets to take orders for the rest of her life.
Burgers restaurant.
The rest of the existence of electricity, as long as her soul machine is powered up. You know, that's what a lot of these people think that these elites and stuff are ultimately trying to do, is upload their consciousness into something that can last for eternity, so they won't be bound by the constraints
Sounds
of
like a Futurama.
the limitations of the human body. But well, they're
The end of it sounds like a Futurama episode where they're trying to like reach the
Well, they all
top
have them in,
levels.
like,
But I'm saying like they finally reached the very top levels of transhumanism. They're going to upload them into something. They end up being like the order, like the kind of like a Jack in the Box.
order
or
bot.
something.
That does sound like a Futurama
Like the little
episode.
tea delivery dude on Rick and Morty, or the butter. That was it.
So I guess that means that Charles is the king now, right? And he was. Tim mentioned this video, so I pulled it up.
Are
Real
they
quick.
looking at this?
No, not yet. I'm
God,
fixing to
show
put it
my
up here.
hand.
I'm putting it up here for him. Yeah, we're gonna look at that. But Tim mentioned this. You know, we're talking about the elites and all this stuff, and this is a lot of people were showing this video.
Is this it? Seems like it's a little early.
No, this is it. Oh no, this is it. Do you say they said? You know, look at how Charles treats his servants. He's obviously an insufferable dick. Can you imagine being bossed around by this guy all the time? Because that video. Oh, okay. You wanted a longer one, but that Tim said that was like the most relatable thing that he'd seen him do.
This right here, it's like where he's just telling him to clear him off. It's like the other one where he kind of like makes this face at him, like there's a packet of like a tray of pins and he wants it moved, and instead of just saying, "Do you mind taking these?" he looks at the guy and just kind of goes, "Argh." And everybody like was saying stuff like, "Oh, look at him, he's a monster." There you go, look at that face. It's like that's the most relatable. That's the only time I've ever thought of him as relatable.
This Daily Mail article says he furiously motions for aid to move inkpot as he signs proclamation.
How many times have you been like, you've had like an inanimate object and you've been like, "Argh." That's the only time I've ever related to a king, is what I'm saying.
Quite a bit.
Get it out of here! We'll blow that up full screen so everybody can see it here. Get it!
Instead of saying,
Somebody get this!
anyway, that's the most human thing I've ever seen him do until you showed me those 5 knots at Freddy's hands.
Yeah, let's look at the king's fingers here.
I'm like, why
The
are
finger king.
they have like no wrinkles.
Where'd they go? Well, this is funny, but
Oh, they're memeing them.
remember when I was one of the things I tried to tell you that one of the things I tried to make on the crayon bot was man with penis fingers, and it showed some fingers that looked like this. Look at those fingers.
Do you think he just has
Look
like
at those
really
sausages.
bad gout or something that's making those hands balloon up?
It's probably all the English breakfasts. You ever seen what they eat for English breakfast? It's like a plate of beans with a sausage and a
He just,
fried
like,
egg,
wakes
and
up every day and just starts spooning down the blood pudding.
yeah, and the achrome.
We might not have a King Charles very long if his cholesterol is spiking. I mean, look at that hand. Like, that's obviously, unless he, like you said, unless it's his Edward suit, you know.
Yeah, and like what we were talking earlier. What if his human suit has been blown up too tight? Maybe that's the problem. Jump in the chat there with us. Say what's up. Let us know what you think about some of this stuff. I got
Suit, that's funny.
let's see. I got a close up of those fingers somewhere. It's not showing to me now. I searched it's the same search that I did a minute ago. There we go.
There we go. Looks like the dawn. Look at that pinky ring.
Hey, that thing ain't coming off without an angle grinder. High blood pressure.
Isn't there some kind of like
Jeez.
maybe I'm thinking of
Look like his fingernail just popped off.
They have. Maybe I'm thinking of like some kind of movie fiction, but isn't there something with like a broken pinky with the pinky ring and like the mob?
I don't know.
Maybe I'm
Lucky
watching
Luciano.
like way too much like anime Yakuza weirdness or something. But it seems like there was something like with the pinky ring and they break the pinky to show dedication. That's a crooked ass pinky, is all I'm saying.
There was we've talked about the movie a couple times on the show called The Southland Tales, and there was a Richard Kelly video. Hey, Spill the Tea. She said she almost fell asleep, but she made it. It was a Richard Kelly film called Southland Tales, and as part of the film, the main villain in it, he's played by the guy, I never can think of his name. He plays the villain in The Princess Bride. But anyway, the smart guy, the guy thinks he's so smart. He plays the villain in Southland Tales as well, and he's basically he's a neo-Marxist, he calls it, and he's using his influence to basically set up a fascist world government that he controls by, he invents a special kind of energy using the power of the ocean to provide energy for everybody on the planet. And if they all want in on this thing, he finds out that the planet is going to die, it's going to be destroyed, and if they all want in on his arc to basically escape the planet, then they have to sign in, and part of the contract is that you have to chop your finger off. Mm-hmm. Well, he sits down with the Japanese president or whoever it is, and he sits down and he places his finger down, and his lady there chops off his whole hand at the wrist. He's like, "You're a lawyer." He's like, "Oh, you just said finger." And he's like, "Well, your lawyer should have read the contract better. It specifies that there's a 6-inch margin of error when cutting." He was within the 6 inches, so he took the whole hand there, and there was nothing he could do. So always read those contracts, folks. But Luke Cavarro says, love some blood pudding in the morning. Yes, indeed. With a spot of tea, a spot of Earl Grey. I do like Earl Grey tea.
I can't
Earl
get
Grey
with the-
tea is also, if you get badly sunburnt, brew Earl Grey and soak it in a towel, put it on your sunburn.
Oh, yeah?
It'll
I've always
actually
done
like
vinegar.
pull it out. Vinegar works too, but I mean, Earl Grey tea is a lot nicer smelling.
Yes,
if you're
it
gonna
is.
You're going to be draping towels around you, you know.
Yeah, it is. Let's see. Yeah, I always take a thing of paper towel and soak it in vinegar and put it on my back, and it keeps me from having to burn the next day. But yeah, if I could do
Earl
the
Grey
same
works
thing with
better.
Earl Grey, then yeah, I'd much rather smell like Earl Grey than vinegar.
And the antioxidants of the tea also are, yeah.
Well,
nicer
so
on there.
back to what we were saying there, we got this Mountain Dew we're going to try. This is the Voodoo mystery flavor. It says, you know, the coloration of it. It says natural flavors. I just hope there's no, you know,
natural flavor.
horse semen or anything in there.
That would be natural.
Yeah, that would be.
And there would be flavor.
Don't they say that in a lot of times natural flavor, it's those beaver anal glands or something that.
Type of castor oil, yes.
Yeah. Well, I like the look of the bubbles on it. We're going to try it out here.
Do you think this is funny? Like, I always thought, even when I was a kid, even before I knew that Mountain Dew had a link to Johnson City, I always thought the name Mountain Dew was so hee-haw, hokey, like, you and me going fishing in the dark, and it's like, slam the dew, and here's Shaquille O'Neal. Like
Drinking
electric
Mountain
guitars
Dew
and
on the hood of the car.
Yeah, it was just such a hillbilly name, and it's they tried that successfully made it cool, but it was just funny. Mountain Dew, and it's written in like the same font as like Rude Dog, you know.
Show it up close here. But boom.
I did look at the
It's actually
ingredients.
pretty good.
At least it doesn't have bicarbonate vegetable oil in it.
Now tell us
Which
about
is-
that.
It's basically like
it
a flame.
tasty?
I don't know if it's tasty, but it's they put it in some of the other Mountain Dews. I think they're trying to, you know, there's been like things to get rid of it because it's actually like a flame retardant
I've tasted this
chemical
before.
that's in
It has it has the aftertaste of gummy worms,
it kind of sour gummy worms, like
doesn't it?
trolley brat crawlers.
If you're having a loading, buffering, whatever, guys, leave the stream and come back in. It's a really popular time for streaming. Sometimes YouTube doesn't keep up with us, unfortunately. Everything's good on our end. Everything's smooth on
And
my
if it's
monitor.
torturous, come see us at 1040.
Yeah, everything's smooth on my monitor, so it's got to be YouTube's end.
Yeah, that's.
Multi-billion-dollar company, and they can't get our little stream up there.
I think a lot of it just has to do with traffic. It's a very, very popular time to stream. And it'll peak at 10:30, and then a lot of times the buffering just completely stops around 10:40.
And it's always the next day. It's always uploaded 1080p, 60 frames per second, smooth as can be.
Sometimes
Audio
it's got
synced
like the
up.
first 10 minutes cut off, and I think that's because people are still watching it.
Yeah.
And it
It may
catch
be.
up, but that's my theory. I don't really know.
Well, in the morning, tomorrow morning, it'll be good. Unfortunately, that's the way it is with live streaming. Sometimes I guess they're giving it to your more high-profile streamers. They're probably getting the bandwidth first before we do. So get out there and help us grow the audience. So maybe they won't want
So we
to
won't
cut us
buffer.
off. Yeah, that's right.
Liquid gummy worms.
What do you? Yeah, that's what it tastes like.
it
Yeah,
does.
it's pretty good. I like it. It would
Sour
be.
gummy worms.
Yeah, it would be. It's very slightly sour.
The sour part is important. I keep thinking about that. When it's like after the sour's been sucked off, and you're still chewing the worm. That's
Almost like a
What about
ocean
the
water
sour,
gummy worm.
chewing the worm.
How about the sour, the little octopus? The octopi, it's the same thing, just they're octopus shaped instead of worms.
I've never had those.
I've never had them. So
They're still by trolley. They're the
you only able to buy them at Asian markets. It's a fetish joke.
Well, I hope we're not still buffering out there, but we probably are. But if you're if you're having trouble with it, jump out of close the stream and come back in. Hopefully, that'll fix it for you. It usually does, but again, sometimes it takes until the next day.
That was a tentacruel joke.
Yes, you could say that, Dustin, but
I thought she was about to break into Usher.
I thought he was going to sing. I thought he was going to sing Paula Abdul. Straight up, down.
But oh my God.
Or the right stuff. Oh.
I'm having a brain fade on this joke I had about octopus.
Oh.
You said tentacruel,
Yeah.
and then you went, oh. That's the best I can lead you.
I'm trying to think. I can't remember how to word it exactly. Oh, here goes anything. How many tickles does an octopus like?
I don't know. How many tentacles?
10 tickles.
10 tickles. I got one thing to say that.
Let's try to think of how to work. What are we watching?
The-
Oh, okay.
oh.
That's what you did, actually. Oh. Only it was dry.
Remember we were showing a few weeks ago. Well, it's probably been a couple of months ago now. We were talking about how in the Netherlands the Dutch farmers were revolting against the limits on nitrogen production and cattle, and how that was basically going to cripple their economy and their food production. The most nutrient-dense food there is red meat, and they were basically going to have to cut it by 80% within a few years. And these farmers took to the streets and they started burning hay all through town and spraying poop on the government buildings. They said, cut our fertilizer. Well, we'll show you fertilizer. And so anyway, right now in The Hague, the Dutch, this is from the AP, the Dutch agricultural minister has unexpectedly resigned, telling reporters he wasn't the right person for the job following a tumultuous summer of protests by farmers over pollution regulations. Pollution, guys, pollution regulations. That's kind of that subtle language you're talking about, Tim, when you're talking about how that study had that little bit in the abstract about how it's unquestionable that wearing a mask is a benefit. And this is kind of the same thing here. They're saying a tumultuous summer of protests by farmers over pollution regulations, as if nitrogen and carbon dioxide and methane are pollutants. Those are natural gases necessary for the life cycle. But anyway, that's not the point.
You can argue that they are.
Yeah, you could, but you'd be wrong. They're necessary for life. If those are pollutants, then oxygen could be in a pollutant too.
Well, oxygen could be.
Actually, that's what's going to end up killing us is oxygen being slowly oxidized over our whole life.
What about if they're ETs, but they're like the methane-based ones, or like some other element that is what they're based off of instead of carbon, and they think that we're like the weird devil creatures because we can actually survive in oxygen.
Yeah, so they're trying to get us
oxygen is very
right, and they want us to limit us, and then so they're trying to get us to do it to save the planet, but really it's to make it more hospitable to their biology.
Yes.
Could be
Where
right.
did you buy that? What spill tea that's
I got that at the Dollar General, I think. Spill tea asks, how do you discover that yumminess? Yeah, it's at the Dollar General, but you're in California. I don't know that you get all the special Mountain Dews like we do, because it is still
they're regional.
based out of out of Johnson City. So it may not be available out there.
I don't know.
But it's Mountain Dew Voodoo, and it is pretty good. I like it.
It's only during spooky season.
It says California on the bottle as far as you can recycle a bottle there. So get your 5 cents, Bill. Nope, it's California. It says California CRV. What does that mean? I don't know what that means. Buffering forbidden info, Luke says. Yeah, leave the stream and come back. Hopefully it'll be better for you. Yeah, maybe it is. Maybe it's Tim's 9/11 theory that they've read his mind and know what he's about to profess.
All right, here, I know this is it's a tall tale or a tall action for me to say this, but I'm pretty sure I've never heard this theory. I looked it, typed it into the Google, got put on some watch lists, and I can't find anybody with this theory. I'm not saying there's any. I'm not saying it's a good one. Maybe that's why nobody's proposed it yet, but it's a theory. I'm gonna keep drinking these gummy worms.
I'm gonna show you this video real quick, or not a video. This post from President Biden. Jill and I wish a joyous and full Mid-Autumn Festival to all those celebrating. Over the next few days, families will gather giving thanks and praying for health and happiness. My family joins yours in hoping the festivities lead to an abundant harvest in the year ahead. What's Mid-Autumn Festival? Is that a pagan thing, or I've never heard of that
festival? Is there a like solstice, equinox? Is there something we're missing?
I don't know. I mean, there was a full moon, I think, last night, wasn't there?
I don't know. I mean, there's autumn festivals.
I mean, yeah, you got Oktoberfest. It
Well, I
starts.
mean, it was
September.
Friday night into Saturday. It was a harvest moon.
Yeah, is that when it was?
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe it's the harvest moon of
September 10th, full moon, yeah.
Let's look up Mid-Autumn Festival. 'Cause I haven't looked it up. I was just thought maybe y'all would know. I was like,
We think I am some kind of Wiccan?
yeah, a witch. Think
Well,
you're some kind of witch.
I'm not a Wiccan, I can tell you that, but you don't get to decide whether or not you're a.
Oh, wow, look at this.
You are.
It's known as the Moon Festival or the Mooncake Festival, a traditional festival celebrated in Chinese culture. So China Joe, that's what it is.
okay.
Yeah, he's saying it to his owners, I guess, or his son's owners. The Mid-Autumn Festival. So it sounds like
Is it Asian Heritage Month or something, though?
No. Mid-Autumn Festival
That's a
is...
complete guess. You never know.
Oh, I don't think so, anyway. That's one of China's biggest holidays.
Is it?
Yeah, that's what it says here on ChinaHighlights.com.
Moon.
Mooncake Festival. Mid-Autumn or Mid-Autumn
It's a
Festival.
mooncake.
Why is Moon Festival? What is a mooncake? What's going on?
It's probably a moon festival. It's probably just something real similar to Halloween, I'd say. Or, because if you take all the lowering of the spirit boundaries and the veil being thinner and all that kind of language out of it, and the Iberian Peninsula's of the habits of using their dead relatives' heads as decoration, a lot of these traditions are just about the season cycling.
Pretty similar all the way around the world. And you got Oktoberfest starting September 17th.
That
Basically
means I can
the
go get a good tater soup.
German version of that.
You go to Hale in Georgia. They throw a big one. It's going on right now.
Hale in Georgia.
It's a big. Well, not big.
Is that Helen or Hale?
Helen.
Okay. Well, yeah, so...
Freiburg's get potato soup now.
Fried burgers pretty dang good.
Yeah, they
And you
are.
don't have to drive 3.5 hours. But if you just want to go to a little German-based town, I haven't looked up the history. I don't know if it's actual Germans that founded it or not. But if you go down there, all the architecture is German, all the restaurants are German. Got a lot of beer things that go on. It's pretty cool. It's like little nice little hokey vacation. I enjoy those though.
Well, back Germany's neighbor, the Netherlands, the Dutch Prime Minister, the Dutch Agriculture Minerals Manager stepped down unexpectedly and says he wasn't the right person for the job. I guess that means basically that he didn't know what to do about these protesters, didn't know how to get the policy implemented, so he left. So I'm sure they'll be back with somebody, to crack down or something like that.
Tommy Hilfiger shirt.
I don't know.
I believe so.
It might be.
I guess that brand's still strong in The Hague.
Maybe so. Maybe the farmers in The Hague are they're big customers now. All right. And last thing in the green room here before we get into Tim's theory, I'm going to look at an Italian hunter almost getting mauled by a boar because they're only allowed to have 3 rounds in their guns. So for the people who say, what do you need all those rounds for? Oh, I didn't do the audio, so you could. Let's
They get you a knife,
She had to beat him off with a shotgun.
get you a dang bayonet and stick it on the end of that thing if you can only have 3 rounds.
It's probably illegal to do that in Italy.
Think so?
I don't know. Probably in a lot of places. Hell, UK they banned knives. You get caught. You have to have a permit showing that you work in a restaurant or something to be able to buy a knife, and even still, if you get caught taking it from one place to the other, and they're like, "Oh, we haven't had any gun deaths." Like, how many stabbing deaths have you had? And there was up in Canada. They had up in an indigenous community up there the other day. Had a guy who was a really bad alcoholic, and he would go insane when he got alcohol, and he stabbed 15 people and killed 10 up there.
Yeah, there's
In
mass
Saskatchewan,
stabbings all over the
it was
place.
just the other day.
And also, like, speaking of places like China, there's mass stabbings there all the time.
Yeah.
But,
But no gun deaths. Let's look here with the audio.
Ain't that some creepy
Non
shit?
riesce più a caricare che mi sarà tirando! Ci ha fatto un giova! Un lampo che ti vale!
Some kind of semi-auto shotgun looks like there, but I ended up having to beat the hog with it to get it to leave her alone.
Dai, si c'è fatto!
well, why you need to
It's like some Bart Simpson rap lyrics.
learn a tactical reload for that situation.
Yeah, need to live somewhere where you're not gonna live under those laws or change your laws. That's the way. I think it's duck hunting or something here. You can only have 2-3 shells in your shotgun.
And a lot of hunting purposes, they do limit you, even here.
Yeah.
But, like for hunting shotguns, they do have them,
With the dowel.
With that dowel that you can just kind of poop out the end of it by pushing more shells.
Yeah, I didn't know what was wrong when I had to take mine off. When I got my shotgun, I was like, why would it only hold 2 shells? It says on the box that it's 5 + 1. But no, it had that dowel in it for
That's
hunting
always
purposes.
the first thing you do when you buy a shotgun. It's just like, okay, screw this cap off and push the dowel out.
Spill says, get the money back. I don't drink soda used to, but no more. I drink too much of it. I don't drink that much. I mostly drink water.
I need to cut back.
I do drink soda every day, almost every day.
Like I said, I'm like 10% candida. I'm eating up with just sugar, and it's all from the Dr. F. I don't eat a lot of sweets. I almost eat almost 0 sweets, actually. I eat just what I eat for dinner. I don't snack, but I consume so much Dr. Neff that I'm walking evidence that Dr. Neff does not cause kidney problems. There's no way it could. I've been drinking them like 4 a day since early high school. So
That's a lot of Dr. Nutt.
give me some free Dr. Neff, and I'll do some really crazy experiments with my body to prove that you're safe and delicious.
Safe and effective. Safe and effective. Brought to you by Tri-Cities. No, I can't say that because they didn't really sponsor us. I wouldn't. Hey, you know what? It's coming up for.
They should, though.
It's coming up for harvest time, and we haven't had any new products offered to us by our sponsor, Tammy's Artisanal Toys, in a while. But we got something big. Literally something big coming for you next week, so stay tuned for that from our sponsor, Tammy's Artisanal Toys, formerly Tammy's Dildos, until the lawsuit. But we'll let you know about that exciting new sponsorship offer next week. Get ready for the fall. So let's see here before we get into the meat and potatoes. Oh yeah, I was going to finish up showing you that basically. For anybody who says you only need 3 rounds of hunting, or why would you need, particularly with talking to hog hunting, or if you are attacked by a large group of people or armed people, it's always good to not have to worry about reloading or running out of ammo if you are ever in that situation where you have to defend your home or your life from whoever or whatever it is.
Well, and also in that caveat with that, how with the 3 rounds. Realistically, only the thing for 3 rounds is in certain game. Like deer hunting, you can only use like 3 to 5 rounds, depending on what type of platform you're using.
And I'm not sure.
But hog hunting, and I know here in America, most places hog hunting, they're pests, so you can kind of free game whenever you want at them.
You think there's feral people out there riding them feral hogs?
If they were, they wouldn't really be feral. Would they still be feral if they were domesticated by feral people? If feral people domesticated,
Well, at that point, symbiosis,
You want the rest of that, Dustin?
Sure.
like
Bless you.
I'm sorry, when I sneeze, it's usually about 20 of them. It's probably a condition. I'm surprised there's only 2. I'm using sheer willpower. Usually it's rapid fire, and it doesn't stop until I pass out. We're good now, though, I think.
All right. Well, why don't you tell us about your theory that you were telling me about?
Alrighty. Well, have you heard of the movie Krull?
Yes, I have it on VHS.
Do you know what the glaive is?
Yes.
Do you know what the horses that rode across the
Tell us
sky
what the glaive is.
and have? You know what the glaive is?
A little bit, yeah. Yeah.
Basically, it looked like a starfish made of metal that had knives on all points of it.
Magical sci-fi throwing weapon.
Yeah, and then it would come back to him, and at the end he lost it for some reason. Anyway, go watch Krull. It's not a great movie, probably didn't age well.
It's one of those that you love, though. No,
But
it did.
you're
age well.
allowed to like bad things.
Yeah.
And I like that movie a lot because it's like they were trying to compete with Star Wars.
Yeah.
it didn't. But I still like it, and it's like one of Liam Neeson's first roles. That has nothing to do with my conspiracy. I just wanted to get that out that I think Krull is an underrated movie, and I saw it on your TV every time I walk in this room. Did you know there are oil rigs hidden in California, in LA?
I didn't know that until you told
I
me.
didn't know that until this week. Apparently may not be LA, I may have quoted that wrong. Somewhere in California, there's oil rigs in the city, and they're unattractive, but they're a good place to put them. So they put a giant oil pumping thing there, like you would see, and they just put a giant building over it to cover it up. So if you're not from the area and you just drive by, you would never know that was an oil rig. There's 4 hidden in plain sight in LA. Here we go.
This is from LA Mag.
Yeah, and I'm going somewhere with this. There you go.
This is an oil rig.
Yeah.
A nondescript building. It's kind of like that famous communication building in Manhattan. It's like a giant building. I think it was AT&T maybe that owned it back in the day, where they were the Atlantic Television and or Atlantic Telecom and Train Company or something like that. But or Telegraph, something like that. Anyway, they had a ultra secret communication hub up there in New York City that basically the CIA and the precursors to them and the OSS, all those different 3-letter agencies could listen to traffic. Now of all that, of course, it runs through. I think it's out in Utah, the Stone Ghost Network, where they basically have all your digital communications going through that one spot and being recorded too. But here's the Packard well site
If you notice,
in Los Angeles.
it's not that big.
No, it's not. It looks like it's about a 6-story building, 5 maybe.
Some trash cans and trees and a car down there to give you some reference.
Yeah. And then let's look what else we got. Here's the Beverly Center. Let me get this
Yeah, that thing.
ad out of the
that
way.
thing's pretty big.
Yeah, that is wide too.
So, conspiracy aside, I just think this is a pretty interesting topic.
The Tower of Hope.
The fact that they're pumping oil in cities and they could just
100
decide to hide it. And that's pretty fun.
165-foot derrick at Beverly Hills High. Dubbed the Tower of Hope in 2020 or 2000.
Now, I'm going to debunk my conspiracy.
Here's the
theory.
Cardiff Tower. You notice none of them have any windows.
Yeah,
So,
decorative, yeah.
and that's all of them right there. Okay.
Now, have you ever...
pumping oil in there, and they're like, "Oh, you can't use this. You're gonna have to use electricity."
We're going to send this oil to China. You guys don't charge your car and don't turn your air conditioner on.
Have you seen the monuments that they've built at 9/11 at Ground Zero? You know what they look like?
A little bit, yeah.
Pretty easy to find it. Because most people just see the spotlights that go up in the air at night and in the shape of the, and the lights, I guess, supposed to represent the tower. But essentially, you've got 2 waterfalls that are very big. These are huge. Like, I know the pictures are probably not going to do it justice, but like it's like a waterfall that goes into it. It's supposed to represent all the tears. But I promise you, these are enormous.
Look at the side of the cars and then look at these things over here. It should let me look at full screen.
They're pretty sure they just use the foundational size of the building and put like a water.
That's what it looks like, yeah.
But anyway, here's my stupid theory. Everybody keeps saying there wasn't enough gas and stuff involved to take them down, but what if there was just oil rigs that were dried up and they were ready to send them off? I'm going to debunk this. I know this sounds stupid. I just never.
Yeah.
I've never
heard that either.
I've heard way stupider conspiracy theories, but everybody keeps saying there's not enough oil, not enough diesel in the 7. It's like, well, what if they were just pumping oil down deep beneath those, and decided they were done with those and decided to end it in righteous fashion? But the biggest issue I have, obviously, that's just pulled out of my ass theory. But the biggest issue is the reason they drill oil on the West Coast is because the crust is thinner and you can get through it. And New York has extremely thick ground because it's very old, which is why they can just endlessly build towers. They can go up forever because the ground's very stable. So that's how I debunk my own thing. But I still thought that was pretty funny. But typing it in, usually it's like it has the same rules as like porn. If you can think of it, somebody's already made it. So it's like, I wonder if everybody thought that they were pumping oil at the World Trade Centers, and I couldn't find it.
What is that? Is like Rule 34 or something like that at the end?
I don't
of
know.
Is it Rule 32 or Rule 34?
What is it?
32 sounds better.
Yeah.
There's Rule 32. Just type that in.
Basically,
If there's it's porn.
if it's out there, there's porn of it.
Yeah, if you can think of it, they've already made a porn about it.
Yeah,
Like-
Rule 34. If
There you
it
go.
exists, there is porn of it, yeah.
Okay. We got chats too.
But I thought that would be, real similar with conspiracies. But nobody's thought of that one.
We got Spill says CRV get 5 cents back at recycling center. Okay, so you can take that and get your money back. Spill says a pig.
Yes.
Couldn't tell too fast. Yes, a wild
was
boar.
a boar.
Yes, a feral pig. Very,
yeah.
very dangerous.
They come though. That's how the pig becomes if you leave it on.
Yeah, it probably was a wild pig, probably not feral, but a lot of the ones in the states are domesticated pigs that have been released and gone feral and started colonies. That's why they're called feral pigs versus wild pigs.
Just like humans, when you let them camp for too long.
That's right.
Maybe that's where all the feral people are. It's just the missing 411s.
Maybe is that why Tennessee did that thing where they stopped where you couldn't camp in public land like that?
Oh yeah, they did. They said it was because of the homeless people. Maybe it was because they were getting killed by Bigfoots or feral people.
Turning feral.
I like
Turning
that
feral.
theory better.
Too many Bigfoot.
But it just so also happens to be happening around the same time when a lot of rainbow family-esque people are traipsing around through the area, and they were like, maybe we shouldn't allow camping so these people won't get too comfortable.
Well, man, if you remember about 2 years ago down off South Roan in Johnson City, there was a huge homeless encampment set up there underneath the interstate where the boys' home there is at the cave, that great big cave, and then there's like a boys' home there, and then right across the creek from them under the double bridge of the interstate, there was massive, probably acre and a half, 2 acres of encampment there, and it was just tents and trash, and that was happening in a lot of places in Tennessee, and I think that's probably why they did that. I don't think necessarily that's the answer for their problems, but that's probably why they did it. Let's go back to, you were talking about a theory here. This is one that always
my main thing was I was trying to come up with a theory. Well, that actually just boinked in my head. I couldn't help it. But I was also, since it's 9/11, mention it in a non-offensive way because I'm aware that conspiracy is so stupid nobody believes me.
okay. Well, let's listen to Donald Rumsfeld from September 10th, 2001.
Rumsfeld declared war, not on foreign terrorists.
The adversary is closer to home. It's the Pentagon bureaucracy.
He said money wasted by the military poses a serious threat.
In fact, it could be said that it's a matter of life and death.
Rumsfeld promised change, but the next day, the world changed.
The other part on here where he says that they lost 2.3 trillion. Let's go right here. Here it is. We don't want to watch the whole thing. Huh?
We cannot track $2.3 trillion in transactions.
2.3 trillion with a T. That's $8,000 for every man, woman, and child.
And I made this point. I called into a talk radio show one time. John Quaintance, who I always really liked, he was a local talk radio show here, and
I forgot about John Quaintance. I've listened to it a couple of times.
I pointed out to him that this had happened, and not because he was saying, I'm so tired of hearing about these 9/11 theories. They already figured out what happened. They investigated. They told us what happened, and a guy called in and brought that up, and John was like, I would have known that. So I called him up and I said, hey, John, they really did, lose $2.3 trillion. And so John, he heard me out for a minute, and then during the break, he went and looked it up, and he said, oh, well, it was an accounting system, so they had an accounting error for 2.3 trillion. I was like,
it just so happens to be that section of the Pentagon that got hit with a plane.
Yeah, it did, and we didn't even get into that because I really had a brief second with him. But
it's not funny. But I'm just saying.
But I was thinking that justified it for him, saying, well, there's an accounting error. Mm-hmm. They gave an excuse. All he wanted was an excuse. That's not a good excuse. That's like dog ate my homework kind of stuff. Oh, well, we updated our system. We had an accounting error. We couldn't account for. Is it just so unbelievable
for somebody to believe? Because, really, if we were in a movie and you're John Quaintance, and you got to think that you're a media person that's not doing this, you've been behind cameras and you've been working alongside news, news talk, whatever it is,
yeah.
Super Talk. You've been working with the media this whole time, so you don't really.
Yeah. When
you're on a team with somebody, you're not really looking for flaws immediately, so I guess it would be easier for you to take the narrative on, for example. So can you imagine though, like if you're in a movie and a guy comes out on the news and says, hey, we're missing $2.3 trillion and I think it's the military's fault, and then the next day 3 of the things that are in charge specifically of money in the country get whacked.
And yeah, there was like there was in, what do you call it, like white collar investigation unit for the FBI that was in building 7 that went down. A lot of people don't even realize that a third building went down, and it was reported by Sky News that it had fallen down while it was
Solomon
still
building. It was on the bottom.
Yeah, the Solomon Brothers building, World Trade Center 7. It was still standing in the background while this reporter from Sky News from England, while they were reporting that it had fallen. So there was a script out that day, and they had gotten it and they read part of it early. That's the only thing that I could make of that.
But my issue with, I guess, the 9/11 conspiracies, because, like, I know people act like, oh no, but, like, man, I mean, that's like the earliest conspiracies. That's like millennials moon landing. You know, that's what people have been talking about for years. And so I guess, like, so people don't, I don't understand, like, when you look at, like, debunking videos, it's almost like they won't even look at the possibility that maybe there was some fishiness going on, because they immediately start with, people try to claim there was never planes that hit the, it's like you're starting with there was never any planes.
You start off with everything these people say is
they mention the most
crazy.
ridiculous ones, like there was never any planes, no one died. They mention like the most offensive ones to the families, so they get worked up, and it's like, no, that's not what anybody's saying. Everybody's saying that a bunch of people flew some planes into buildings to cover something up potentially, and that's pretty believable, actually. You know,
there was, I remember especially the thing that got me to even question, because this was probably 2004, 2005. I believed the official story. You know, I watched it happen. I watched the second one hit live, and I watched CNN and Fox News at work, you know, for couple of weeks after that, and there were people there that watched it for months after that, and I had no reason to believe anything different. I mean, it seemed strange, but they immediately brought out experts to say, well, no, this makes total sense, this is why this happened. But I remember there was a thing put out by Popular Mechanics magazine, put out a TV special with Jason Miggs, one of their editors, and another guy, and they were debunking the Loose Change movie that had come out. I think it came out around 2005, made by Jason Burmis, and he went on to get that movie featured on InfoWars and start hosting InfoWars. So he kind of made his name with that film, and it was the hottest thing out. Loose Change was at the time as far as conspiracy stuff, and when Miggs and the other guy from Popular Mechanics were debunking it, they did that the same way. They kind of made it look like, I was like, well, hold on, like you're straw manning their arguments. You're making it easy. For one, the main thing that really got me was the pancake collapse. How it was saying it was a pancake collapse when obviously this building did not go down in a traditional pancake collapse floor. It blew out from the top. It wasn't the weight of the building pushing it down. It came down differently. But then another thing they said was they got into the whole, well, jet fuel doesn't melt or steel beams part of it, and
I've heard the argument that it does bend it enough to cause.
That's what I'm going to get into.
Yeah.
But the point is, there actually were molten steel beams. There was molten steel coming out of the building that could be identified by the color of the sparks and the color of the flowing molten liquid. Like you could tell, a metallurgist could tell you that this is in fact steel pouring out of the building. It's molten steel pouring out of the building. But they totally ignore the fact that there was molten steel and just go to say, well, look, it doesn't have to melt the steel. All it has to do is heat it up to a high enough temperature that the steel can lose its strength and give way, and it will sag and cause a pancake collapse. But that's not what happened. We saw these buildings, like, 10 floors from the top. That's where these explosions started, and it turned to powder and shot out. This was not the weight of the building falling down and crushing it like they told us.
It was the glass that caused it. Because
pulverized concrete.
I'm actually open. Which were we?
Right there.
I'm actually open to the idea that there's no conspiracy. Because I always have to assume that maybe I'm wrong about stuff. It does seem like there's a lot of smelly, fishy stuff going on with 9/11, but I am kind of dumb about things sometimes. For example, within the last year, maybe a couple of years, USADA, which is a group that tests athletes for drugs, and performance enhancers and stuff like that. Specifically, well, I keep up with it because of MMA, and so, you know, they're always testing fighters and stuff. And there's always been this idea that they selectively test fighters and let some of them go clear,
Right.
and you know. But I never even really thought about the performance enhancers. I always just kind of, you know, yeah, maybe they're cheating or whatever. Well, as of fairly recently, USADA started giving out a jacket for every time you hit 50 clean tests. And it's like, you're giving a prize to something that everybody hypothetically should be doing every single time. So now, I'm a little bit of a lunatic, so I automatically think, well, hell, they're all cheating then. That they're like, why would you be giving away a jacket to everybody that gets a certain amount of free and clean tests if performance enhancers aren't really a problem? That's my issue. So now I think PEDs are probably running rampant in MMA, and it might even be completely scripted. After the incident with Kamzat this weekend, I really actually do think a lot of that stuff is scripted now because I'm crazy. But if I apply my same mindset to 9/11, I actually have to think the reverse, that maybe there's nothing going on in MMA, and maybe there was no cover-up on 9/11. So,
Well, ultimately, one of the things that gets me about this is when you try to ask some of these questions, I'll say something like, okay, well, how did this happen? Have you ever seen a building fall down like this? Can you find me another? And people will revert back to, well, who did it? Why they expect me to have all the answers just because I have some questions? And there are a lot of things that you find out as you research, but that doesn't mean you have all the answers. And like, I couldn't tell you exactly who did it, but I could tell you that the FBI knew these people were. They were watching them. Everybody that was on the plane was real. You know, the whole thing about Osama and the fake videos and the fact that the Taliban was willing to give Osama up to avoid Afghanistan being invaded, that wasn't good enough for the United States government. They wanted to invade Afghanistan. So there was a lot of powerful interests at work doing making a lot of moves. And you look at the security state that got into place after 9/11. They even if they were not behind the event, they certainly allowed the event to happen and then took advantage of the crisis. Not only took advantage of it, they allowed it to happen. They actively monitored everything as it went on, and they had everything in place. The Patriot Act was already written. It went into place, November of that year?
I'm not saying that there's not clear evidence that there's a lot they did it in. But like I said, it looks like a lot of smelly fish.
Yeah, well, it definitely is, but I don't have all the answers. Is the point I'm making? Is we still don't know what happened. We still don't know. We know there was a lot of evidence on people was lost when that crash happened in the Pentagon. The financial evidence part. They also the criminal investigation department of the FBI for white collar crimes was destroyed in Building 7. So a lot of convenient things happened for folks, and then you had the security state and the Patriot Act. There's Michael Chertoff, who I think who was he the Security of Homeland or Department of Homeland Security chief, the newly created Department of Homeland Security. They appointed him. Let me look that up real quick to make sure I'm telling you right. Yeah, Secretary of Homeland Security. Right when they created it, there was no Homeland Security until 9/11, and they appointed him, and then his company, Chertoff Inc., got the contract for the scanners that went on all the airports. Let me show you that real quick. But he's this is from Desiree.com in 2010. Homeland Security Chief Secretary Michael Chertoff benefiting from scanner sales. His group, the Chertoff Group, had these X-ray scanners ready to go and put in all the airports after 9/11.
Well, it was like Halliburton with Dick Cheney.
Well, tell me about that, because that's not something I ever really delved into.
Well, I could be speaking out my house. I'm pretty sure Halliburton is a weapons manufacturing company. And
they do a lot of stuff.
Started declaring war. Who are they going to buy the weapons from?
Right.
So it's a pretty big conflict of interest when you're, basically roommates with the guy who can declare war.
Yeah. There's a lot of conflicts of interest. A lot of people made a lot of money. A lot of people gained a lot of power. They got basically a nationwide police state installed.
God, you might want to type in the word Halliburton. They're weapon manufacturer.
They gave you the ability. They gave the government the ability to totally eviscerate your Fourth Amendment right, where they didn't even need a warrant. If you said a keyword that the computer didn't like,
is it ass?
No, you know what it is. they would. What is it? I'm not going to say it. But they you said certain keywords. That computer would automatically trigger to start listening to you, which pretty much told you that they were already. That's how we found out that they had always been listening and scanning our communications. Stranger Things shows this in the first season of it. If you remember when they were making phone calls, there's people listening on these phone calls in that that region. They were able to, back then it was pretty simplistic. They didn't have the computer setups that they do now where it does it all automatically. They had to physically listen in on all the phone calls that came from within a given region to find out what they were looking for. But they had that technology back then in the 80s, and they basically updated it with the Patriot Act to where they could basically scan it all the time with computers, listen for keywords. If they heard the keywords they needed, then they could go ahead and listen to that with a human, and they didn't need a warrant to do it, and they could actually, but they've never stopped one attack using it.
Is it anarchy? What's the keyword? I'm trying. I want my phone to like flip up down. Alert! 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 Treason!
No, I'm not going to say it.
Like the dude from Minority Report bust through the door and take you off.
Yep.
If I had a magic word to make Tom Cruise come flying through that window right now, I think all three of us could tie him down and get a good interview. Really blow the channel up.
Witchcraft, Tom Cruise.
On YouTube right now, there's three hillbillies got Tom Cruise tied up in their basement. They're asking weird questions. One of them's asking about Bigfoot.
Hey, Tom Cruise was right though. Remember that video where he was going off on Matt Lauer about psychiatric drugs and acting like a crazy person, but he was actually right because a
lot of groups get something right.
Yeah.
I don't like psych meds. I'm not saying if you're not schizophrenic or you've got something like it, you shouldn't be on the.
There's some people that need it, but they just came out that a lot of the research on
Band-Aid.
The research on SSRIs was, a lot of it was not right. That there was no proof that a chemical imbalance
There's never been.
That those
always
drugs
been a
helped
theory.
it. Yeah, and they pretty much found out that that's not been right. And same thing with 40 years of Alzheimer's research. It has been just made up based on their theories, and
I'm okay with like theories. I mean, I'm sure you've seen like back in the day that doctors thought that your sperm was like essentially a super tiny cliff flying.
Yeah.
Like, you know that, right? That's the craziest thing ever. They thought it was a full-grown but miniature goth flying out of the head of your pecker.
Yeah, and they also thought that women were basically the same genetically as men, but they didn't develop fully. They had a theory of that a long time ago too.
They just stayed boys, young boys.
Basically.
How do they explain that?
No,
other than doctors,
they've learned a lot over the years.
Yeah, and so I mean, like. Philosophy. Psychology has its roots in philosophy, but the basic roots of psychology is actually phrenology. And if you're not familiar with that,
it's where they squeeze your head,
literally like
map your head shape,
map your personality and stuff based on the bumps of your head. There's like old Looney Tunes jokes about it.
Oh yeah,
bumps on your head.
The Elmer Fudd.
Yeah. Because they thought like if the big part of it, they were onto something. They had the idea that like if certain parts of your brain were swollen, that particular part of your brain is meant for a certain thing.
I'm gonna turn the air on.
They just
be right back.
vastly underestimated the complexity of the brain, and they would try to be like, oh, there's a ridge over here, so that means you might get sad in the autumn or something. But the brain's way more complex than that. And but I mean, if you look at like the history of like the Nick in New York and like how they were like brutalizing people and having to like steal dead bodies from the morgue just so they could ethically dissect things. I mean, the history of medicine is not. It's pretty barbaric. So, I mean, like psychology is newer than medicine, so it really does kind of make sense that the field is not there yet in a lot of ways. Because I feel like with psychology, it's
well, it's sort of like that old joke of with like the old medicine thing. It's like you have ghosts in your blood, you should do cocaine about it.
It's like psychology. We take it so personally because we feel like it like we don't want people to know who we are or something, or maybe it reads too much into us. But there we are. Here we are.
And here we are we're in East Tennessee, but in Western North Carolina, Bigfoot has been spotted lately.
Again,
yes, it's been a hotbed of activity.
It's Bigfoot, but is it interdimensional Bigfoot? We'll get to that.
Bigfoot has been spotted more than 100 times in North Carolina, Bigfoot field researchers say. And we got a recent sighting here that was reported to the...
what county?
Let's see here. This one, let's look here at this.
That's a hot spot right there, if that's the red one.
Montgomery County, that's where Hickory is, I'm pretty sure. Hickory, there's been a lot of them in Hickory.
Hickory's Catawba.
Oh, is it?
I got hit by a driver there. I'll never forget that.
Oh, well, okay. Where's Catawba? Around? It's right here somewhere, ain't it? I know there was one in Hickory the other day. Because I saw a video on it earlier.
I'm not sure.
I'm not finding
That could be a little bit closer over here since that's us.
Oh, are we above it up here? Is this our Tennessee?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I know Hickory is close to Chattanooga, right? 3 hours in. I just know it's Catawba because I got hit and sideswiped, and I remember seeing the Catawba sign later on.
Well, maybe it's not even showing a Catawba anywhere, so...
How about these little gray ones?
Maybe they don't even have a good enough record. Let's see Hickory Bigfoot sighting, because I saw that earlier today when I was watching Bigfoot videos. Hickory man claims he spotted 3 Bigfoot.
3?
Yeah, no, wait, he's got a picture of this here. He's got a video. And he counted it with Bigfoots in the hills. Now, this one was the famous one here from a couple of years ago.
They can see this?
If it'll play. Whirligig.
It's okay. We're sponsored by Simply Safe. And if you type in the code Cliff, you'll get 15% off on their shitty service. Simply Safe is known... Now I better start giving them a bad review. Simply Safe is a great service, so they don't sue my ass for doing a fake commercial for them. Simply Safe.
Pay me.
If you'll sponsor Simply Safe, I'll be your shield. Don't use Cove.
On this night at 6, social media is buzzing after a Hickory man says he captured something amazing on his cell phone camera video of Bigfoot.
Yeah, he recorded this video in McDowell County where several people reported seeing the creature over the years. NBC Charlotte's Brandon Goldner spoke to the man who described his experience.
Now, I don't know. I watched this video a couple times and I had a hard time making Bigfoot out of it, but it is a strange looking thing. And then they showed it on a History Channel bit that I saw earlier today, and they had a entomologist or a zoologist.
Entomology's bugs, isn't it?
I don't know. I said animalologist. Oh, and like animal. Animalologist. They had her on, and she was saying basically that he got some footprints of it too, and she was saying, based on the footprints, it would have to be 15 feet tall, and this animal's not 15 feet tall. But here's the thing I always got about those footprints. You ever notice they're always really, there's been a couple of, well publicized incidents of people hoaxing the Bigfoot people and putting getting a big shoe or going around, and some of them were the Bigfoot people themselves going out and making fake Bigfoot
crop
prints.
circles.
Yeah, well, and those are pretty easy to tell, I would think, if you know anything about tracking or footprints, because they're always uniformly applied. You can tell the foot doesn't roll and bend. You don't have a heavy pressure on the heel and the ball. It's always even, and sometimes the toes are messed up. But I get
flat-footed.
Maybe he is.
Kind of just sandwiches around
have you ever seen a gorilla foot? Have you ever seen it? Every single conspiracy outside of governmental stuff that is suspicious stuff. What if everything like this is just some smart person that's bored of reality and decided he wanted to, kind of have a giggle,
a more fun, Ted Kaczynski that took life a little less seriously.
He took life pretty seriously.
That's what I'm saying. If you imagine if Ted Kaczynski had just decided to have fun and mess with people instead.
What was that guy's name? There's a Potion King or something. There's a Longmont Potion King or something. There's a professional prankster out on the West Coast that does weird stuff. Am I thinking of a prank caller? I don't know.
Let's look at this, and you can tell us the theory that you heard about Tim, about the Patterson-Gimlin film, the most famous Bigfoot film ever. This is a stabilized version from 1967. Let's look at this real quick.
See that glow around is actually the Bigfoot's aura. These 4K cameras can now finally catch up.
He's reached power level 9,000.
No, he's about to zap into the next dimension because he's interdimensional.
Oh, I figured that was his power level. But this, they've stabilized the back of the background because it doesn't change except for the water moving, and they've just...
Show the tits. I keep hearing people say that this is a girl gorilla. Play that. I want to see some mammary glands.
It turns around right here.
Okay,
there we go.
All right.
I don't think I can zoom in.
CSI, I want you to enhance this for me, Cliff.
I don't know if I can.
All right, by enhance, I'm going to put my eye up to your monitor and see if I can see Bigfoot boobage. Oh no, that's kind of
does look kind of mastly there, doesn't it?
And the reason I've heard that that's important, because I mean, it does kind of lead credence to it, but maybe it's just a smart person. If you were going to pose as Bigfoot, why would you give it boobs? That's a weird detail to add on for no reason, you know.
It is. Did I not get the screen? There it is.
But
let's enhance this.
Maybe my vision's garbage and it's not boobs. Oh, he's enhancing. What do you think, people?
Kind of looks massive.
Boobs.
That looks like a breasticle.
Little shadow here over the arm here too. See that?
Yeah.
I know that those black pixels are just shadow, but I'm going to pretend those are big squatch nips.
That's what I think they are too. But a lot of people said that you can see the way that this creature is turned.
Very Henderson head.
They say that that a person couldn't turn like that.
Can you?
I don't see why you couldn't.
I can lean my head over. People are arthritic.
With they're saying because of this look right here with the way this arm is above the hip or something, the way it's turned back past the hip. But to me, that doesn't prove it couldn't be a person in a suit at all. But it does have a strange looking gait, and we'll give it that.
Show me the gait.
Let's look.
Tonight, folks, we are going to crack this mystery. That's right. You heard it here.
Not unsolved mysteries.
It doesn't have a weird gait. Hit that again. I got to see. I'm going to pay attention. If I saw this thing in blue jeans.
It's like its center of gravity's lower than a person's almost.
I mean, is it because it has a set of fake boobs?
I really don't know.
Is it gravity all messed up on it because it's wearing a gorilla suit that they gave it the female gorilla
I don't know. I've never been convinced by that one, but I've always thought it did look strange. And I'm not either way on a Bigfoot. I was watching a video about the people who see Bigfoot, and these people a lot of times are skeptics, and when they see it, it like blows their mind and they turn into like crazy people. And some of them were, this one documentary that I was watching about a particular Bigfoot investigator, he had seen one when he was like 40 and he was probably 65 in the video, and it had taken over his life, and he did nothing but look for Bigfoot and try to prove to people that Bigfoot was real. And you see a lot of people who have Bigfoot encounters feel that way too. They feel like they have to go to the news, they have to go everywhere. Bixby,
stop listening.
Fuck off there.
And then she'll cutely go, I promise I'm not dropping any eaves. Like, don't you give me that cute robot voice, you evil thing. We're going to be dating AIs at some point, you know that, right?
Yeah.
And it's just going to be fine because, like, your wife's going to have a boyfriend, you're going to have a digital girlfriend. And it's okay because it's not real anyway. I'm just predicting, people. I'm not saying it's right.
No, I'd say you're probably onto something there. But let's see if we can find this guy with the 3 Bigfoots here, part of the video. Let's see if I can get to it a little bit later.
What they're doing wrong is they need to listen to the Jack Links man and take some beef jerky to it.
See, here's some of the. There's some of the. Those were some of the best commercials, man. There's the cast of the footprint. See how it's like completely flat? I'm sorry. I just don't see how that's possible if you're walking on that.
Is that the bottom of it?
Huh?
Is that the bottom of the footprint?
I think it's
like
I think it would be reversed. Yeah, the bottom.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is there any lines in it?
I mean, you just see the sticks
Janky
and stuff
toe. He's
like
got a
that.
Prince Charles toe.
Yeah, a lot of those have crazy looking toes too. That's an interesting thing about it. But it just doesn't look like any kind of footprint I've ever seen. If you've ever seen bear,
you've never seen a Bigfoot.
I know, but you take a bear or you take a wolf, you take a raccoon. You've got different pressure areas. You don't have anything uniform like this.
So,
even a horse with a hoof.
Is there not better footprints than this, though?
I know, that's what most of them look like.
Okay.
I mean, we can
pull up
a few more.
A fair shake that maybe are there
any casters.
Well, if they're interdimensional beings, how do we know that their feet are just not made for a different dimension?
But they do, as I started to get into, they've seen these things. They have names for them in like all the old Indian tribes. The Cherokee called them the mythical tribe or the what was it, the hidden tribe, the reclusive tribe, something like this. They're all over the country. They have these names for them, and Sasquatch, is the most famous one, but the Cherokee name is like Oninomi or something like that. And if you go up to the Algonquin Indians up in the New York area, they have a similar creature. And then you have the Wendigo, which was very similar to the Bigfoot, as was more of a ghosty, wasn't it?
Wendigo, yeah, there's
kind of like
a ghosty Bigfoot.
There was another that was called the I'm gonna get this wrong, Winticorn or something like, but it was more like a spirit.
Yeah, he had an antelope head. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so he was not really like a Bigfoot. Yeah.
Caught a bit.
He had a brief stint in Marvel Comics.
That's the Wendigo. I just remember reading about the Wendigo in Pet Cemetery, Stephen King book.
According to
I got the impression it was like a scary Bigfoot, which
that's what he looked like in the Marvel Comics, is this thing, but he was essentially like a giant scary Pokemon because he would scream Wendigo.
Well, that's another thing that
Wendigo. According to the game, Marvel vs. Capcom.
There's a Bigfoot call now, too. Have you guys heard the hoot that is supposedly a Bigfoot call?
No, is it the
Wild Buff Screamer?
yeah, it sounds like the Wild Buff Screamer.
Is the damn Duck Dynasty people going to be making them get the new call out? Listen to this.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. Here's locustoutpost.com. Or possible Bigfoot hoots recorded by campers in Humboldt State Park and the Redwood State Park.
Some sort of vocalization. It's coming from the forest.
I don't hear anything.
Clickbait bastard. Where's that?
They say they do wood knocking too. You can hear them knocking on wood. I can't hear anything.
You ever heard about the Bigfoots that throw rocks at people?
Yeah,
the rock village.
A lot of them. I can just barely hear it. There was some I heard earlier today that was different than that.
You heard a Bigfoot earlier today?
Yeah, somebody's recording of it. Now these are always funny, I think. How'd it sound like Bigfoot?
That's a win. I said there was a big.
How'd it sound like
Bigfoot's
Bigfoot?
in the bedding? You cooking up your interdimensional theory, Golf?
Like the other primates, they're going to have similar vocalizations.
This is on Animal Planet. They're going to teach you how to make
calls, mating calls.
How's this on Animal Planet?
But I would anticipate.
Duh, it's an animal.
Like
That's
that.
Bigfoot?
Like a siren kind of sound. But then I've also had squatches come to me like when I've been like
Squatches come to me.
noise and this and that come to me and do like
He's just a matter of fact.
like that kind of grunt.
Now I've heard they do hoots, hooting.
Whooping like a juggalo.
Well, and then
Bigfoot's a juggalo. Found it, bro.
you better watch. You'll be on the FBI's terror list. That'll be how they finally find Bigfoot.
Bigfoot. They shave his shoulder and got the hatchet man on his shoulder. He's marked, sir.
Let's check out the chat real quick. We got a few from Phil.
What if the big feet are just the feral people?
Yeah, that's what we've mentioned before. They could be that.
That's what they're saying.
Big feral people. Bacon Josh says sounds like my ex-wife.
Which part?
Was she a Wild Bluff Screamer? Death Claw Jedi says enhanced rain. Yeah, I didn't hear anything. I very rarely could hear something, but it didn't sound like any hooting or anything.
I didn't hear anything.
But they said they'll do a lot of wood knocking. Let's see if I can find this one that I watched earlier.
They like telling knock jokes.
There you go. I'm open to the idea of a Bigfoot. I just, you got to show me a foot first,
Yeah.
There's a lot of stories. Have you heard the idea? Do you know what Agartha is, if I said that right?
They have Sasquatch calling competitions on ESPN. Did you know that?
No. That's a kind of a
Well, if there's not an actual Bigfoot, if there's not an actual Bigfoot for the judge, I call some bullshit.
That's what I'm saying. When you can just make up the rules. No, the Bigfoot I heard went woo woo woo.
It's like this pig squealing contest. We can all agree that woman.
That's a pig, yeah. They get in an argument. Bigfoot don't sound like that. Yes, it does.
My mama said that's what a Bigfoot sounds like.
This guy here.
Become a part of Illinois.
Here's who I watched the dude.
This one dude said that Bigfoot was a shapeshifter and would often turn into toads.
Believes Bigfoot is a real primate, and like other primates, capable of producing a huge array of vocalizations and noises.
So this I would characterize as a yell or a scream, which does fit into the paradigm of the Bigfoot world.
Gerhardt claims Sasquatches are social animals and they vocalize if there's another one here.
That's a Wookiee right there.
There were B was playing DayZ and they were calling people in the ghillie suits bush Wookiees. I just had to say that to break this video up a little bit.
Most animals vocalize for a couple of primary reasons. One is for mating.
But Gerhardt believes this actually isn't a mating call. It's a war crime.
Or just like in between civilizations.
There's an alleged Bigfoot.
This particular vocal.
Go back. I was talking.
Alleged Bigfoot.
It's gonna be one hell of a metal scream.
It would. We said he'd make a great metal front man.
It's a war crime.
This particular vocalization has a definitive sound of aggressive.
Yeah, it's aggressive. All right. Let's see if we can find another one here.
Oh, I have what I call upright theory. I have to get on the podcast at some point too. It's a really soy boy theory that I got to get out.
Well, we're 11:30, so
no, this doesn't have to happen tonight.
Okay.
I'm just stating it for the fact that at some point in time you're going to hear me sound like a real weird. Maybe it made total sense.
Well, we could definitely do that. I'd like to hear your thoughts on it, especially when being, as we talked about, the soy stuff with, who was it that gave us that chat about soy, telling us it would shrink our jewels?
We've had soy brought up a couple of times.
Yeah, I can't remember. Witchy, some dumb witch. If you're out there, some dumb witch, thank you for bringing that up.
For bringing jewels shrinking up. Thank you for telling us that jewels are shrinking.
And also, in a lot of instances, with where soy being one of the #1 crops in the world, it is actually destroying more of the rainforest. And it's destroying more of the rainforest than cattle are.
It's the main reason the rainforest burns. Is when they get done with the land, they have to burn the old dead bean vines up and then start over. That's the reason. So a lot of times when they show that the rainforest is on fire again, they're wanting your money. They forgot to tell you that it's the farmers clear cutting the land to plant next year's crop, and they're just pretending like the rainforest is on fire due to global. You realize how hard it would be to set the rainforest on fire? Yeah. I guess people that don't live in like mountainous areas, they don't get that it's actually kind of hard to start a fire in a moist area. Yeah. It only starts a fire here if it's intentional, like some dummy's doing arson, or if it's dry as a twig. It'd be impossible to set the rainforest on fire.
Yeah, accidentally.
Yeah. So. Once again, they're lying to you. The rainforest is in danger, but we're the ones doing it with soy.
Death Claw Jedi says, Vacant Josh says, I heard he says, supposedly they beat on trees with logs and sticks. Spill the Tea says, I heard the same about wood knocking. Vacant Josh says, that dude totally banged a Sasquatch. Knock, knock, who's there? It's me, Bigfoot dude. You've been looking for me. Hey, I'm telling you, watch Primal Rage. Chick does get taken advantage of, sexually assaulted by Bigfoot, and it's a fun movie. It's not a good movie. I don't know if I want to see. It's not a good movie. Well, yeah, that part is pretty uncomfortable, but the movie overall is a pretty fun. They make a horror movie out of Bigfoot. It's like Harry and the Hendersons if it was a horror movie. It's pretty fun, and
there's several good Bigfoot movies.
Again, it's not a good movie, but it's one you'll like. No, you'll like it. I think it has the crew of Pacific Northwest rednecks that are after a couple as they basically flee Bigfoot, and then they don't know that Bigfoot's after them, and he takes out the rednecks and gets after the couple. But yeah, it's kind of a classic horror style with Bigfoot.
Slasher, but Bigfoot.
Yeah. And it's fun.
Bigfoot the movie is a
dude. We need to make a movie called Bigfoot in a hockey mask and just have Bigfoot run around in a hockey mask. Don't explain why he's wearing it and have him killing people at a lake and stuff.
Yeah, this is a juggalo.
And the name of the movie is Bigfoot in a hockey mask.
I just love how you're just like so non-creative with the title.
Okay, we have to get like a. You got to turn it into like a trauma film.
Bigfoot is that guy, that whoop whoop guy.
Superhuman. No, Superhuman's gonna be the hero.
Oh,
he's out there getting a Bigfoot, and he's like, "No, you're giving Juggalos a bad name, family motherfucker." Ooh, he gets him. He's like, "Fuck this shit." Whoop whoop.
They accidentally attracts a Bigfoot because it thinks he's giving it the mating call. Oh.
And fuck the Dalai Lama, and fuck you too, Bigfoot.
Oh shit! Well, listen, y'all. That's about time to wrap it up. But I did. I wanted to do another thing that they were talking about that Bigfoot supposedly do is you'll find trees balanced, and they use them as directional markers. Is what the Bigfoot researchers say, that they'll use them as directional markers. You'll see like a giant log, like for one that I saw that was burnt, and one that was cut, and these were way out in the woods. They're talking 7-8 miles out in the woods, and they found. They said it was a child Bigfoot footprint because it was like, I don't know, this big. Mm-hmm. So like 7.5 inches long.
It was a medium foot.
Yeah. They were probably like, this is a 1-year-old Bigfoot. But I did think it was interesting though that they were way out in the middle of the woods, about 7-8 miles off any trail, and they come across this footprint. That's what I thought too, is feral human. And they also come across branches that were they had to be put there. This tree didn't fall. It was placed there and it was balanced perfectly. And they were saying it's a directional marker pointing into water sources, or maybe as a territory marker for the Bigfoot. And I think all that could be true, except with feral people. Mm-hmm. But I'm not out here to say there's not a Bigfoot. I'm definitely not saying that because I don't know. But it just seems odd that we don't have any concrete proof with as many sightings as there are of it, unless he is
interdimensional.
Exactly.
But what if the interdimensional Bigfoot is also with the staircases in the woods? And that's his portals. Those are the doorways to the interdimensions.
Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe that's how you disappear when you climb to the top of these staircases. You're going to the Bigfoot.
Which are gateways into the Hollow Earth.
That too. I mean, that's quite plausible.
Have you seen the conspiracy that fits in with Hollow Earth? That I think was it J.R.R. Tolkien, that he's not writing out of fiction, he's writing out of history.
There's a real Middle Earth.
There actually is a Middle Earth. And all that.
No, I haven't heard that. Have you all watched any of the Prime Lord of the Rings? It got such terrible reviews.
No.
But some people were saying it was actually decent. I feel like that it was probably I don't know. They do this weird marketing thing now where they're like,
they promise you lies.
Well, I don't know. It's almost like they want a controversy over, like they make up a controversy, like that people are getting mad because there's a black actor in the film or something, and they deal with it, rapists, and like really nobody has a problem with it, but they're acting like they have a problem with it, when really people are saying, I just think this is a bad film, and they're like, yeah, you don't like this because you're racist. It's almost like that was their whole marketing plan for the thing all along.
They're trying to find a way to get like the outrage, baity sort of stuff that they're depending on that now.
But like one thing, if they actually went to like the areas that was not right there in Middle Earth, like there's like continents and stuff to the south where there were people that were darker skinned.
Yeah, and there were I think they did. They were the what are they called? They're similar to the hobbits. They're creatures that were Tolkien says they were darker skinned. They were like hobbits but darker skinned. Harfoots, yeah, that's what they were. So I mean, it's not like that. There couldn't be brown skinned characters in Lord of the Rings, and I don't think really any Lord of the Rings purists necessarily had a problem with that. I think they were just saying it was a bad show, and that like I think a lot of it was like part of it was basically turning Galadriel into a Mary Sue character, and that.
And they don't even tap into like her brain. She uses magic and mental powers like that. She's not a physical
and they made her
making her like a magical physical character when it's like, always whenever in like Lord of the Rings, when they see her, they're all scared of her because she's so magical. She has such powers over magic.
I'll show you why I haven't watched it yet.
Lives intro.
That's not the music, but this is the real intro. This is not the real music.
You switch the music and it changes it that much. That's pretty bad.
Well, look at it. It's pretty terrible. This kept me from watching it. I'm gonna watch it. I love Lord of the Rings. I watched Brandon Bucks' child watched That intro was super cheesy, though. That's the reason I haven't watched it yet, but I will watch it.
You see that word elvish there? I'm going to give you one more Tolkien factoid there.
Give it to me.
Is he wrote the dictionary over and over again. So when he wanted to, because at that point in time he was one of the top linguists. He was
right. He was a historian.
Yeah. And so when he was writing some of his work, he was writing about dwarfs, and he hated the way dwarfs rolled off the tongue. Mm-hmm. And so he actually went into the English language and changed and made a rule that in certain instances when the F was there, you could change it to LVES, because he didn't like the way it rolled off. So Tolkien is literally the reason that you have shelves and not shelves.
Really?
Because he hated the way dwarfs.
So I've seen it written dwarfs and dwarves.
He changed it because he didn't like it, and it inspired people to. I guess people only hear about slang and new words, but language is an ever-evolving thing. And I think language is very fascinating.
Yeah, I think it's funny that they're always like, "Well, it's not a word; it's not in the dictionary." But
it's about to be.
And then people go crazy when they put a new word in the dictionary. It's like, oh well, a word is whatever people decide it is, and if people are using a word like "ain't," for example. Yeah, even if it's not in the dictionary, if people are saying it and it means a particular thing, then it's a word. So then you pretty much have to add it to the dictionary. And especially recently, when we have these crazy new words like, I don't know, what's a new word?
Surcharge. Service charge mixed together, but it's spelled SUR charge.
I think that means...
I know it's a compound term. It's a service charge. What I'm saying is they're always making up new ones.
I mean, that's not what that is, but...
It's not?
No, surcharge. Sir means...
So when I go to the bank...
Sir means on top of. A surcharge. It means an extra charge. Surcharge. Sir is the root word in French, or that means sir.
Well, still, that's the compound word.
Yeah,
I'm still going to double down and say right.
But I'm saying like
that's how I roll.
No, what's like a new word like in the tech world?
Machiavellianism.
I need a word that a new word out of the dictionary. Let's look in here. Like when they make up these new words that you hear them and you're like, that's not a word, but all the kids are using it.
Straight up bussin', whatever the fuck.
We're talking about like slang, because slang is
yeah. That's what I'm talking about, like slang. But I'm not talking about slang where they add Merriam